What is up, my friends? I hope you're all having a wonderful Saturday up to this point, and I'm going to do my best to try and make it that little bit sweeter for you. We're going to talk about Dominic Szoboszlai as the Reds look to move to tie him down to a new deal. We'll be giving you a bit of an update on the situation with Ibrahima Konate as Real Madrid are circling. We'll talk about the Paris Saint-Germain duo that Liverpool have apparently been rebuffed by, and we'll tell you who Romano is, shall we say, upset with, because he seems a bit litigious lately, and, we got to be careful what we say because we've had enough of legal letters here at Anfield Agenda. We certainly don't want another one. Confused? Don't worry, I'll fill you in on exactly what that's about. Now, unlike Mr. Crosby, I've got no waffles or food to waste here, so I'm going to go waffling in a different direction, and that is by going through the news. So, as always, I want to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video, but don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Tomorrow, we'll be back at 8:30 with a late night agenda, but until then, let's get moving with the news. So, we're going to repeat the news from earlier on that Ryan Gravenberch has signed a new contract with Liverpool Football Club. That deal looks to be a 6-year one, rumoured to be worth about €100 million over the 6 years. That would take Ryan up until he's 29 years of age, but also it's a wage of about £270,000 per week. Let me know your thoughts on that, because of course we're going to move on to talk about Dominic in a second, and if that's the type of numbers that Ryan's getting, I can imagine Dominic will be due similar or maybe even a tad higher. Personally, I do think the Gravenberch deal is a little on the high side, like I mentioned earlier on. Nothing to be stressed about, and again, you're tying him down for 6 years there, so what might look like a high wage now, over the course of that contract, if he stays, of course it could look like fantastic business in 2 or 3 years. I do think we're going to see more football clubs now looking to tie players down to long-term deals. We don't want another situation with the likes of Real Madrid coming around sniffing for players whose contracts are running down. So I think to combat that, you're going to see clubs try to tie their stars down to longer deals, a la Chelsea. Right, let's talk Trainioni for a minute. This piece from Anfield Watch said Trainioni was really impressive in his cameo versus Wolves, and then they run through some of the numbers. So he had 8 out of 8 passes completed, 1 out of 1 dribbles completed, 1 tackle, 1 interception, won 3 out of his 3 ground duels, and they say if Arne Slot wants to give Ryan Gravenberch a rest, then Nioni is ready. Now, talked about Dominic a moment ago. I want to just reiterate, I think he should be snapped up really quickly by the club. I think we should be rebuffing any interest that Real Madrid might have. We reported earlier on that they have some financial concerns, shall we say. The money isn't as free-flowing as it once was. And with that in mind, I don't think they have the money to come in to try and tempt Dominic Szoboszlai. It would take Liverpool receiving an offer upwards of probably £100 million to even consider selling him, and Madrid just don't have that, and their need is for somebody a little bit deeper in midfield. So McAllister would be more likely to be of interest to Real Madrid at this moment in time. Now, I can't read the future. I don't know what Dominic's going to want to do in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but right now he's a Liverpool player, potentially a future Liverpool captain, and I'd love to see the club rush and get this deal done as soon as possible, because if we can get him on 250, 260, 270,000 pound a week, I think we should be doing it, and I think he deserves every penny of it. I know we normal working class people are miles away from the money that footballers earn, but we got to pay market value, and if we want to keep the best players and build that next generation of Liverpool team, well, we want to keep the likes of Ryan Gravenberch, Dominic Szoboszlai, and those young players around. So let's talk about a player who wants out of his club, and that is Mickey van de Ven. Football Insider say the Van de Ven is unhappy at Spurs and is open to capitalising on interest from clubs such as Barcelona and Liverpool at the end of the season. Now, I'll move on to talk a little bit more about this in a second, but for me, Van de Ven's a great player. Van de Ven is somebody who would happily have at Liverpool, but I think we're more likely if we bring in somebody like Xabi Alonso, who may play with a back three. Bastoni again would make sense in that type of system, but Van de Ven in a back four at Liverpool, not really sure about that one, to be honest, but I do think Alonso is going to come in the summer, and I do think that there is a possibility of Liverpool shifting to a back three, so watch this space. Spurs had hoped, this piece says, to tie the Netherlands international down to a new contract, but talks have stalled, and of course Spurs are, well, they're up that creek, aren't they, folks, without that paddle, and it's a mess. If they go down to the Championship, they really, really are going to be fleeced. They're going to lose a lot of players. Even at the 50% wage reductions, it's still a huge amount for them to pay. The likes of Xavi, he's not going to stay there, is he? Xavi Simons, he's going to be off. We're talking about their captain there, Mickey van de Ven, he's going to be off. And other star players like Vicario, who's of interest to Juventus, he could be off. So your thoughts on that, very much appreciated. For me, we'll take him in a back three, Van de Ven, but not so sure in a back four. So now we'll move on to the Romano situation. And like I said, got to be really careful here because he's seeming a little bit touchy at the moment, Mr. Romano. There's been a few stories written about him over the past week or two that may have caught your attention. We covered Sporting Intel's one here. But Matchday Central have a post and they credit at Top Skilled Sport UK. They say, breaking, Fabrizio Romano is allegedly preparing legal action against several major media outlets after reports that he believes seriously harmed his reputation. The Italian transfer journalist is set to take legal steps against L'Equipe, Daily Mirror, OneFootball and other publications. Sources close to Romano say he's seeking between 10 million and 50 million euro in compensation, claiming the coverage affected his professional credibility and ability to work. His lawyers are currently working on officially filing the case in Italy as the dispute continues to escalate. Now, one thing I would say here is I think you should be very careful what fights he picks here with these publications because we're not talking about YouTubers here. We're talking about serious legal coverage that these outlets would have. And again, if the stories they've ran with have been ran with, I'm sure they'd have been verified, double-checked, fact-checked, sourced, and they're not going to just throw anything out there that they know could be, held against them. So I'm going to be a keen observer on this one. I'm not going to lie to you folks. You know my take on Romano. I don't have much time for him. I don't see what good he does to football fraternity. And if some of these stories about him basically just naming a price to say whatever are true, well then I think his reputation has rightly taken a knock. But like I said, let's wait and see how this one plays out. It's not my issue. It's not my fight. So let's wait and see. Right. According to Team Talk, Liverpool had an interest in a couple of Paris Saint-Germain players rebuffed. They say that the Reds inquired about Desiree Doué and Bradley Barcola, but the French giants have said no dice, no chance, no how. The lads aren't leaving. Now, I don't know what happens at Paris Saint-Germain. They were beaten 3-1 at home by Monaco in the league last night. What happens with them moving forward, I don't know. But these are the calibre of players that Liverpool should be looking at. We know the Reds have also looked at the likes of Yan Diamonde, who looks like a very good fit for the club moving forward. Will we pay the 100 million euro that it looks like RB Leipzig are going to ask? I don't think so. I don't think we'll pay quite that much. But I do have a good feeling on this one getting done. So I think he could come in. Then the key will be what happens with Mohamed Salah. What happens with the likes of Cody Gakpo. And the truth is, anybody that tells you they know that, I think are lying to you at this point. Now, Canade, he has interest from Real Madrid, and that is right in the sweet spot for them. A player that is experienced that they wouldn't have to pay a fee for and could give him relatively high wages. But Liverpool haven't given up hope there, as we reported earlier on. The club are still trying to convince the big man to sign on a new deal, and I certainly hope that he does, because since he's come back from the untimely passing of his father, he's been nothing short of fantastic, looking like the old Ibrahim Canade. And I also mentioned many times, I think Virgil should be extended for another year as well, as he continues to perform at a very high level. So that is pretty much it for now, ladies and gents. We have gone through quite a bit there. The whole Romano situation, which is definitely worth a few minutes of your time if you have time to Google and have a little search on these stories. We talked about the situation with Dominic Szoboszlai, Trainioni, Ryan Gravenberch's new contract, Mohamed Salah and his future, well, that remains up in the air. Some reports in Saudi suggest an offer of between 30 and 50 million pound could be on the table for the Reds. Would you take it? I don't know what to say here, because I would at this point. If 30 to 50 million quid was on the table, look at it this way. We've given a huge new contract to Ryan Gravenberch. If we give one to Dominic Szoboszlai, if we give one to Alexis McAllister or other top performing players, well, that money has to come from somewhere, right? And if you lose Mohamed Salah's wages of about 400 grand a week, Andy Robertson's wages, Federico Chiesa's wages, you're talking about 600-700 grand a week there off the wage bill, which would allow these younger players to get these contracts and hopefully build the foundations for a successful era for the Reds once again. Our club has been good in recent history at keeping our star performers. It used to be these players would be cherry picked, perhaps moved on. Now the club have worked really hard to make sure we're in a position when the likes of Gravenberch or Szoboszlai deserve new deals, that they get paid fair market value. And I'm right for it. I want the club to be successful. I want us to bring in the best talent around Europe. Young players players right in their prime as well. That is what this football club should be about. Now, the managerial situation, well, that's a conversation for another day, my friends. You know where I am with that one. I think Alonso will be the next Liverpool head coach, and I think he'll be coming in the summer. More and more reports starting to come out about that as well. So let us know your thoughts on that and everything else that we've discussed. Don't forget as well to enter a giveaway to win that signed Kenny Dalglish frame shirt completely free with thanks to our friends at thecollectorscorner.co.uk. You can also get 20% off with the code you see in the bottom corner, Anfield Agenda 1. So that is it for now. I've missed you all. I really have. I don't like taking days off, but sometimes, you know, it's got to be done for the old mental health. I'll see you tomorrow. We'll have a lot to talk about. And don't forget, the FA Cup draw will be on Monday as well. The Reds are safely into the quarterfinals. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.